The journey continues, and it only gets better from here. Book 2 is easily my favorite of the 3 books, and it's not hard to tell why. It's the one with the least bad episodes, and the one, at least in my opinion, with the best episodes. It picks up maybe a few days after the end of Book 1. Things get more intense. New characters are introduced. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Much like Book 1, it follows Team Avatar, Zuko, Iroh, and now being thrown into the mix, Azula and her team. Aang, now having a waterbending master with, or the next best thing, is looking for an earthbending teacher. Aang is also thrown a curveball about halfway through his book, which is something that takes nearly the entirety of the second half to resolve. And the love subplot, which I didn't really give much attention to in Book 1's review, is given further development. That part isn't exactly my favorite, and I still think Katara still sees him as a friend, because I'm not seeing the couple material here. But maybe that'll change in Book 3. Aang also gets put through a emotional journey and a physical one if you count his earthbending training. Katara doesn't get much development, but she does show more traits of a good character, taking lead at one point when all seemed lost for the gang, and I even understand why Aang would like her despite some of her flaws. This book is where Sokka becomes the goofy, funny, animated Sokka that I remember. He was more tame in Book 1, but in Book 2, comic relief Sokka is now unleashed. He's still the idea guy, he's just a lot funnier now. Maybe Aang's goofiness started rubbing off on him. He still has serious moments where he's an actual character and has thoughts and feelings conveyed in a more dramatic sense. Now, the newest addition to the team is a character that only made the show better than it already was. I can't say that for many shows because they usually screw this up, but no, not Avatar. Seemingly, as soon as Toph was introduced in the show, the remainder of Book 2 is flawless. Say what you will about the first 5 episodes being a 3 out of 2 thing, the last 14 episodes of Book 2 are 14-0, and it started with the Blind Bandit leading the charge. Toph is a brash, blind, and bold 12-year-old girl who can earthbend, seeing the vibrations or movements of her opponents through her feet. Essentially, her feet are her eyes. She's been sheltered since birth and doesn't like being seen as a burden. She acts a lot like a tomboy. She's a pretty good fighter, and at one point near the end of the book, she creates a new bending style. She doesn't necessarily get a lot of development, but she gets a lot of character depth. One thing that I really like is that it makes sense that she can beat dudes that are twice her size, since it doesn't matter what your size is as long as you can bend an element well. And even though she doesn't show it, she actually does have insecurities and a softer side to her. So there's layers with this character. Zuko and Iroh become fugitives at the beginning of the book, wanted by the Fire Nation for their acts of treachery, and then of course being known for their affiliation with the Fire Nation. They're stuck, but they'd rather take their chances with the Earth Kingdom. Being penniless and traveling across the land to meet their destination, they're hit with a number of setbacks and obstacles. Zuko resorts to aggressive means to stay alive, while Uncle Iroh would prefer to live off the land or earn his food in an honest way. At one point, it led to not just my favorite episode of Book 2, but my favorite episode of the entire series, Zuko Alone. In this glorious episode, we get a lone samurai-esque tale where Zuko sees how the war has affected a small village of people. People have lost loved ones. They're barely scraping by. And on top of that, a group of soldiers just ignored the war so they could fulfill their own self-interests. This episode is closed off and so self-contained that it doesn't really affect the main story, but it does expand on Zuko's character. Zuko has more showcases of not being the bad guy, not robbing a married couple of their food when he was dead starving, showing a boy how to use his dual swords, and even defending him at one point. He has a lot of self-reflection that maybe the very nation he's fighting for isn't fighting for a just cause. He starts to question things throughout this episode, and this is when I believe the turning point for his character started, as he never really thought about these things before. Even when it seemed like everything was fine at the end, it wasn't. Zuko still has a long road ahead of him. Opposite of Zuzu is the one known as Azula, she whose personality made my skin crawl as a child. I don't care what her stands say, that girl is crazy, and probably has been since she came out the womb. She's over here at 9 years old discussing battle strategies as casually as 9-year-old me talking about Dragon Ball cassette tapes. Then at 14, in her first full appearance, she does this.
And if I were to have you thrown overboard, Would the tides think twice about smashing you against the rocky shore?
No, Princess.
And he considers you a miserable failure for not finding the Avatar. Why would he want you back home, except to lock you up where you can no longer embarrass him?
Yeah, she's not crazy at all. She's not a straight-up villain. Another example is how she treats her friends Mei and Ty Lee, either through pure manipulation or by means of force until she gets her way. If this is how she treats her friends, I'd hate to see how she treats her enemies. Her two friends don't deserve the treatment they get. Ty Lee is a light-hearted, friendly, athletic acrobat who is extremely dangerous due to being able to disable any bender's ability to bend. She may look harmless, but she's not, which is what probably leads to her opponent's downfall half the time. Mei, emo personified and a master of hitting her target. She's not exactly the most motivated person to capture the Avatar, and only tags along because she's bored, and probably because she knows how Azula operates, with no meaning yes. The writing is excellent for the most part, with it only being 50-50 at the very beginning of the season, with the 2-week episodes of the book being Cave of Two Lovers and Avatar Day. After that, there are no slip-ups. We go from things escalating from intense and dire to straight up dark and serious in the second half, and I absolutely love it. There's barely any moments of comedic levity, it's here and there. This is where Avatar treated the target demographic, aka me, with respect. Jesse Flower voicing Toph was an excellent addition and was in an episode in the previous book voicing Mang from the Fortune Teller episode. Grey Delisle, though, stole the show with her voice work as Azula. Her performance is just perfect. The animation in this is as good as it was at the end of Book 1, continuing the consistency of the series. Dare I say the animation is even better than in Book 1. With all that I've talked about in the review and Book 2 ending on the biggest dire explanation point, leaving questions as to what will happen next and how they'll resolve the problems that the book ended off on, Book 2 really is the Empire Strikes Back of the Avatar franchise. And it's my favorite for that reason. Avatar: The Last Airbender Book 2, Earth, is near perfection. Next review will hopefully be ready in 2 weeks, so sit tight. I'm Lino Mars of the MSK Productions crew, and I'll see you next time.
Comes marching home.